recording in process.
You're good to go.
Good to go?
Yep.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Chris may join us, Chris Rosenbergen, but we'll call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Let's get started with the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Before I do that, does anybody have anything they want pulled?
My question was about item number 4 and 6. I just.
Do you want it pulled, or do you just want to ask the question when we get into it?
I'm sorry, the numbers changed. It's not 4 and 6. I'm sorry. One second. So it's number 7 and 3. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want those two things pulled, or do you want to wait until we get into the question and answer?
I can wait until question and answer. I just wanted to know what they
Okay.
were for, more information on
All right.
them.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Okay, so Dina, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so for the Comforting Hands medical staffing, what are they subbing, or what is their role? I know we have like a medical director. I just wanted more information.
So we don't have any this year, RN subs or LPN subs. And in 2 of our buildings, we have students with pretty significant medical needs that require to have a nurse in the building. So if in the event that our regular staff, and especially with COVID, this can be very problematic. If our regular staff, for whatever reason, can't be in, they can provide us a nurse in that instance. We've also had scenarios where students have needed like one-to-one nursing care. Most recently, they provided coverage for a student at Cardinal Hayes for a particular period of time. So it's just a staffing agency that helps us whenever we have either long-term or short-term care needs.
Okay, thank you. And then for 7, my question was kind of the same thing. What if you provide more information, why it's needed, or what?
Yeah, so currently in pupil personnel, which is special education essentially, we have a CSE chair who is a teacher on special assignment. That leaves no administrative coverage for that department. So this would essentially be, it's a 1-year position in my interim absence, who would be able to make decisions, provide direction to teachers, and also to make decisions on behalf of the district in any type of scenario where there might be a settlement that needs to be made. We can work with our legal counsel to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about the consent agenda?
No.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, very good. Oops. So the next thing is the President, Vice President reports. Hang on a minute, I'm trying to get everything on one screen here. I just wanted to, so we all, and for the folks in the audience, every year we, as a board, well, not as a board, as members of the board, we do walkthroughs of the building to see primarily where there are major investments needed. If there's a systemic issue, something that's, we're really not focused on taking, principals should be saying, hey, that light switch doesn't work, or I don't know, floor tile is missing. So we've completed our walkthroughs, which I wanted to thank the board for doing, because it does, it's an hour, at least an hour. But I wanted to open it up for comments from the board about the condition of the buildings as they saw them. So anyone want to go first?
Sure. So I thought the buildings looked fantastic and they were very welcoming. Aside from my notes, I know some of the things I read your response, Perry, so thank you for that. But some of them I felt maybe were more safety. I don't know if we're gonna talk about that more in exec.
Yeah, anything related to safety and security needs to be executive session.
Okay. But I was very impressed, and I think the kids will be really excited to, or have been really excited to go back with the middle school, with the change in the lockers. That was really impressive, to give more room in the hallways. And just the buildings, especially for Alden and Elm, they were just so bright and colorful, and the classrooms were decorated wonderfully. So aside from, I guess we'll talk about later, I thought it was great. I had a great experience for my first tour.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I mean-
I thought, I'll just say really quickly that in past years, I think there's been some things that may have been neglected or, kind of put on the back burner. And I just want to say kudos to John and his team. Not only do I see a lot more aesthetic progress, but, John took a lot of notes. We talked about things, half the things that I think picked up on. He was like, yep, we're already working on that. It's just, it's a lot. And I think they're doing a great job, making the school a really nice place for these kids to be. So I want to say thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jen. I'll just, there was one specific thing, and I know John has it on his list, but the automatic faucets that were put in are only connected to the hot water. And it's forced our maintenance guys to go and lower and raise the water temperature so that, the water coming out of the faucet isn't too hot. So that's one area, and I know they're in all the buildings. So it's one of the things that systemically think needs to be looked at. The other thing is I also want to give the credit, or give credit to our principals. We as a board told them, made it clear, I think several years ago now, that they own their campus, that's the way they should treat it, that they should fight for what's needed and make sure that they're getting what they feel is right. And it was really obvious that there's a lot of ownership. So that was my feedback from the walkthrough. Anybody else?
I'll go. It's Chris, if you can't see me.
Hi, Chris.
So to really reiterate what Dina, Jennifer, and you, Perry, said, I had a great experience. Last year, I had just started. And when I went on my walkthrough last year, nobody was in the building. It was a few days before school had started. So it was nice, even though it was very quiet within all the buildings. That's a good thing for the most part. But I was really able to observe, positive interactions, staff to staff, staff to student, student to student. And I have to say, I want to give kudos. 80 within the field, you want to hit at least 80%. And what I observed, I did a little coding, I have to admit, and yeah, and you hit the 80% or above. And now again, I didn't see students out and about walking in the halls, but just glancing into the classrooms, I couldn't hear obviously what teachers or students were saying, but you can take a look at body language and engagement. And so everybody looked engaged, everybody looked happy. So I do want you to, give that feedback to the principals. And everything looked, I jokingly, but not so much. John's on the hand sanitizers, or I stopped testing after a few. That didn't work. And I know these are onesie choosy things, but it does. We want to keep everyone healthy and safe, because COVID is with us and other germs. And the kids don't get much time, right? Going to lunch, they may not stop at the bathroom to wash their hands. So they kind of have to rely on hand sanitizer. But other than that, I mean, the buildings, even, definitely compared to last year, there's an improvement aesthetically. And it was just so nice to walk around when the students were in the buildings. And should I wait to bring up staffing monitors later? I did have a question about that. Is that more executive?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are probably security related as well. So why don't we wait until we go, into executive session?
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
But Chris, I tell you, it was a pleasant thing to see, like, desks back next to each other and not weird plexiglass things like in between things and separated by 6 feet. It was just, to me, it was very nice seeing, I don't want to say normal, but back to something close to normal. Very cool. David, anything?
No, I was unfortunately not able to make it this year.
Oh, right. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. And that was really, there's a couple other things, but we'll talk about those, at a future date. So Caroline, you want to do your report next?
Yeah, sure. So good evening, everyone. We have a couple of folks here who have joined us this evening. We have Nick Bednarski and Mike Hurley from the CSEI, who have something that they would like to say to the Board of Education. Mr. Nick, go for it.
Hi, well, good evening. My name is Nick Bednarski. I'm employed here as custodian. And I'm speaking on behalf of our president, Albert Tompkins, vice president, Julie Rouge, and the rest of our CSEA membership. It's unusual for us to be here, but I think this evening we are going to approve our new 3-year contract. And so we're thankful for that. And we'll get a little stage right. So. Yeah, okay, so yes. But with me is my fellow custodian, Mike Hurley, sorry, Mike. So who's a lifer, who's 20 years of service here, and he has stated to me that this is the best contract he's ever approved and signed off on. So for that, we've already thanked our union executives. Now we'd like to thank you guys, our board and our administration, for handling so professionally and bargaining in such good faith. We're grateful for that. So, and beside the contract, I think the new environment is really an upgrade in the way we conduct ourselves on a daily basis. I thank you for our head of maintenance, our superintendents, and I think it benefits us all here in Millburn. So again, thank you, we're grateful, and a special thank you to Albert, who unfortunately couldn't be here. So again, I'm just speaking for our CSA membership. Mike, anything to add?
Thank you.
All right,
And thank
again.
you for being here.
Very good.
Thank you. And also in the audience, we have our newly appointed supervisor of student services, Samantha Holsborg. How are you? So welcome to Samantha in her new position. And now for my report. So we have quite a few things going on, as you know, and this job happens in real time. So every day I could add more and more to my report for you, but I will try to keep it short. So we have an amazing opportunity. As you know, food service has been a shortage area for staffing for quite some time. We did just appoint a food service helper today, which is awesome. And we also received additional applications as well. So we're hoping to be able to be fully staffed. We have an opportunity right now, in addition to a full complement of staffing, to be able to work with a community organization called Without Walls, which is a community-based services organization that will bring individuals with special needs into nonprofit organizations for volunteer opportunities. So Amy Watkins actually put us in touch with this organization, and I met with them last week, myself and Amy, and we talked about the types of tasks that essentially we would need these folks to be able to accomplish. They are looking to pair the proper individuals with the tasks that we would need. So in doing that, the conversation was a little bit like, well, we would need, basic food prep, and we would need some, trees cleaned, and we would need service line, and we might need boxes moved. And so basically where we had left it was that our kitchen staff would put together a sort of a weekly schedule and some tasks that kind of were routinized throughout like the week. And then I would get it back to them, and they would see if they had an appropriate team that they could put together to bring here on a routine basis. So we're waiting to hear back. There were some concerns that we will have to work through. Our kitchens aren't very large, and typically they come in teams with a job coach. So it's just about how can we spread folks out in the kitchen so that we can have everyone here at the same time, and it doesn't become a hindrance to the work that's going on. So that was one thing. And then just making sure that the schedule can work, because they have like a morning time and an afternoon time. So I did reach back out, and I'm waiting to hear as to the flexibility of that, and if we have a good team that can be comprised to be able to help us. I've already answered the question about the people personnel services person. So we will be posting for that position, but I did just explain what it was. We're excited to report that Elliot has interviewed and found a successful candidate for the senior typist position that we have been waiting for so long. But after getting the list and canvassing the list, setting up interviews, Elliot has settled on somebody that will be coming to you for consideration at the next board meeting. So that's really exciting. And filling more positions that I feel like we have gone without for so long. We do have our new person starting in the business office, but unfortunately at the last meeting, I did let you all know that Camille Patron has put in for retirement. So we will be moving quickly to fill that position with another principal account clerk. No one is going to replace Camille, but we do need to get someone in that position as soon as possible so that they can have some overlap and train under Camille. She has amazing expertise in her job. So we are working on that. And then we're also waiting on the list to get an assistant director for food services so that we can get someone to support our food services staff. We had an awesome day on September 6th. We had our superintendent's conference day. Harry came and helped me welcome all of the new staff and our returning staff as well back to district. That was really exciting. Weather played an interesting role. We prayed all summer for rain, and it all came on September 6th, which wasn't that problematic, but The one thing that was tough was towards the end of the day, our partners from TNW BOCES were supposed to be here in person to do safety training, and unfortunately, we had to pivot to a virtual training, which was fine. We were still able to do our training, and no harm, no foul. But of course, right, the first day we're back, there has to be rain. And then September 7th was our first day with students, which was an awesome day. I know that even today, someone said we didn't have any tears this year. We had like just happy students coming back to school and not a lot of, first day of school jitters. Like it really just seemed to be a very smooth start to the school year. So it's really exciting. I hope everybody can just get back to a normal school year, because that's certainly what it felt like. And this year, as we had mentioned a couple of times in the past, we were able to bring some of our students back from out of district programming and create an 811 self-contained program here in district. And it has been so awesome to see these students reacclimate to their home school. It's been really great. They visited our offices, introduced themselves, read their All About Me books and presented to us, and also presented book report summaries. So it's great to see them getting used to their environment, making some connections with the adults in the building, and really just settling in. So that's awesome. I knew it was going to be a success, and it certainly seems to be, starting out just as smoothly as we had planned. I do have to give a shout out to First Student. Transportation startup this year was super smooth. There was a couple of minor hiccups to be expected the first, week of school. Most buses arrived and departed on time. All the kinks have been worked out, and it just has been smooth sailing. I have to thank Ken, our interim business official, because he has worked so closely with them to make sure that that happened, and it's just been awesome. Our facilities walkthrough we just talked about. So many great things happened this summer in our buildings, and our CSEA members who are here, John, Elliott, thank you so much for everything that you've done. The buildings really do look amazing. I'm sure kids are proud to walk back into these buildings. And I know that there were some highlights in the interior of the building, but also too, I hope you got to see like our butterfly garden outside the high school and Tom's outdoor learning space down at Alden. There's just so many positive things, and I know Elliott has some pictures to share as well with the community. In other news, we are fortunate that we have community partners like Reardon Briggs and the Rotary Club. We got pallets, literal pallets of school supplies donated right before school started, and Janet Monahan and Joanne Winters worked tirelessly to sort everything, to bag them into these cute little Millbrook totes, and they were chock full, and we were able to supply 45 families with supplies. So that's throughout the district. There were folks who needed, and our community partners were there to support. So we couldn't be more grateful, and I certainly can be more grateful for our staff, our internal staff that was able to get all of that prepared for our kiddos. So I'm going to just skip the organizational chart discussion for right now and go on to just a couple of other points. Next week, I will be presenting at the New York State Council of School Superintendents with our thought partners, Education Elements. So that's exciting. I'll be talking about responsiveness to your community in creating inclusive environments, inclusive educational environments. So it was kind of funny how it all happened, but basically Education Elements sponsors NISCUS. They got approved to do a presentation, and they have to partner with a school leader. So one of them had suggested, oh, well, Caroline's interim now, maybe she'd like to present with us. And the other one took that as a foregone conclusion that I would be doing this, and submitted the proposal with my name on it. So I'm a good team player. So I absolutely, I said, I'll absolutely do this and help out. So I will be presenting with them next week. We have a couple of items that are new, but something that I just wanted to make sure that we advertise. The Millbrook Middle School put together a spirit gear store. So if you're not aware of that, there is a storefront set up. It's 25% off in the month of September. Anybody who maybe is new to Millbrook or returning to Millbrook and wants some Millbrook gear, you can access that through the middle school main office. And there's tons of different, whatever your style is, you can find something so that you can have your Millbrook gear ready to go. two things that for the board to consider. We currently have a request from local school districts, multiple actually, who are in need to borrow football helmets, reconditioned football helmets. We have all the helmets that we need for our modified team. So I would need to just have consideration from the Board of Education if we would be willing to, as we have in the past, lend out football helmets. We currently do not have a varsity team, and we have all of the helmets that we would need for our students. So something that we would need to consider if we are able to do that. We have a simple agreement that we had used in the past that could be modified to use for this purpose as well. And then a point of notification, Dutchess Community College met with regional superintendents in March to let them know that as of spring of 2023, students in the region will be charged for their Dutchess Community College credits, which is atypical. Typically, we have, as a district, have paid for the DCC credits, and then we've gotten a reimbursement from DCC. However, that is something that is proposed to change, and it seems as though this is something that was overlooked because it came as a surprise to many of the superintendents in the area, and we met yesterday, and we are pushing to at least push this off until next fall when families and school districts have an opportunity to plan and budget for it. But it is something that I did want to put on the board's radar because this cost is either going to be put on families or put on school districts.
Do you know, Caroline, how much it is?
Well, I can tell you that we have 190, or we have 93 students who are enrolled in courses this year. 2 of those courses are half-year courses, so it would be applicable to those 2 courses. And it would be $192 per student. So I can do quick math when somebody else is talking and get back to you.
Okay.
Okay,
So you don't have to do it tonight. I just, when we really start talking about it, excuse me, we should have a good idea of what it's going to either cost the parents or cost the district.
Mr. President, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
To Caroline, to Superintendent Caroline. Is this something DCC is doing, or is this a SUNY-wide?
So we're trying to get to the bottom of that. If you go on the DCC website, it clearly says that dual enrollment courses are of no cost to students or schools. But apparently, from what I'm gathering, and we're still trying to find this citation, that there is a law somewhere that says that students who are concurrently enrolled in high school programs and college programs, that they're supposed to pay, I don't remember the exact percentage, a third, I think it was, of the tuition, which comes out to be $64 a credit, which comes out to be $192.
Yeah, I would suggest, of course, you have your contacts, but I would suggest that a call up to the State Ed Department's counsel's office might cut through some of this to find out if it is a SUNY-wide thing that affects all community colleges, because as you're aware, Columbia Green is not that far away. It's just the DCC operation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are some procedures where, as school districts, you kind of have to start with, your local community college, and then you can expand out if the offerings don't match. So it's something else to look into, but it just came as a surprise to me, and I was really surprised to find out that many superintendents in the area were also not aware. So we're trying to work on it, at least to make it manageable for families and or school districts. There is definitely a conversation on the table. DCC was responsive to the conversation. We'll see where it lands with their board. But I did absolutely want to let you know that this is coming down the pipe.
That makes me wonder, you mentioned with the board, their board, DCC, of the Dutchess Community College. It almost sounds like it's not something through state ed. And if the superintendents might want to, as a group, if, again, show their displeasure through counsel's office, that you've kind of been hoodwinked by this. As a last resort, of course, let DCC work on it locally, but if you need to kick the ball up, I've always believed you start at the top and let them kick it down.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that. You know, I don't want to speak out of turn. It sounds from what I gathered, we had a brief meeting of the regional superintendents, and it sounds like this was a result of an audit. That it was like, hey, this is supposed to be paid for. We're still waiting to get that information so that we have clarity. Because I think knowing where this is coming from is also very helpful. So I'll keep you all updated.
All
I
right,
just
thank
wanted
you.
to make sure to put it on your radar. And with the additions of some new administrative staff on the organizational chart.
Caroline?
Yep, so we're just sharing with you the
Oh.
organizational chart, proposed organizational chart where, as you know. Good, okay, so as you know, previously, it looked a little more of sort of like a two-branch tree, where most things were falling under Elliot or myself. We now have, Dr. Amy Watkins, who is the Executive Director of Instruction and Community Relations. And so this is the restructuring where she will have supervision over the Supervisor of Student Services, who will share supervision of school counselors with the building principal, as that's obviously student services being something that would be germane to her role here in district. And as typical, the building principals will still supervise the athletic director and all of the teachers and instructional support staff as they typically would. And the pupil personnel services supervisor, who is someone, like I said, who would supervise all roles of the CSE, will also supervise the psychologists and nurses who oftentimes play a support role in working with students who are served by the CSE. The assistant superintendent for technology and facilities, as you can see, nothing has changed with Elliot. And we have a school business administrator, that's all stayed the same. As is now, the school lunch manager and the personnel assistant will report also directly to the interim superintendent of school. So I just wanted to point out where the new student services and the people personnel services, those two positions, I just wanted to point out where they would now live on the organizational chart for Millbrook. Any questions about that?
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you so much. And one last plug, we will have a community event from the PTO on October 7th on the Alden Place lawn at 5:30 p.m. There are details that will follow, but I did want to just make sure that we keep that date fresh in our minds. It will be an opportunity for the community to come together and to meet some of the new staff in district and any of the veteran staff that would like to come as well. So thank you. That's all I have.
Very good.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you're going to speak about it later, the COVID physical plan. Is that an executive issue?
So, cool.
From the medical.
Oh, yeah. So it is still required. I know
Yeah.
someone had asked the question. It is still required that students who tested positive for COVID last year, in order to participate in phys ed and extracurricular athletics. Hold on. They still will have to be cleared by their own physician. So their primary care provider. And the reason for that being is they have the child's medical history. So they know any like pre-existing conditions or whatever. But I did also get some clarification on exactly what would require this. So a child who is asymptomatic or had mild symptoms, Nuvance, which is our chief medical officer, is recommending that they're assessed by their primary care physician via phone call, telemedicine visit, or an in-person evaluation. What I think is that's probably going to end up being the decision of their primary care provider, how they're willing to sign off on this child's well-being, knowing their history, their records, et cetera. If they had moderate symptoms, it is recommended that there's an in-person evaluation by their primary care provider after the resolution of symptoms and the completion of isolation. And with severe symptoms, so for example, if there was an ICU stay or like an intubation, they would be restricted from 3 to 6 months in order to obtain cardiology clearance prior to resuming any sort of training or competition. So it is sort of staged out for the type of symptoms of COVID infection that the person experienced. But what I do think is that this is the chief medical officer saying that this is the minimum, but you may very well call your primary care physician and they may say, I'm not signing off on this child without them coming in for an assessment. And that's their right. It is, if what they are restricting here is because there's a danger to children, then if I'm that physician, I would want to be that careful. So that's our chief medical officer. Your primary care physician may have other expectations in terms of that for clearance.
And it doesn't make a difference if they've gone, say, for a physical after that time, like those notes or whatever was provided physical, they're clearing them to come back to school.
Yeah, not necessarily. It won't necessarily matter unless it says, and then nurses have specific language and the doctors know it's like something post-COVID.
Right.
I don't know exactly what the terminology is, but it's essentially acknowledging that this person has had COVID, recovered, and is safe to return to full activity. So just your general physical may not actually cover it. If your primary care physician is aware that you've had COVID, I would assume that they would do the assessment and do that. But if they're not aware, but the school nurse might be, you may have to go back for clearance.
And all these families and children, they know this.
Yeah, so anytime a student has been out, the nurses have been providing them that information. Assuming that it was reported to the school nurse.
Yep.
Right. Students that may have tested positive for COVID back in, prior to the end of last school year, but didn't get a clearance. The nurses have been in touch with them this school year.
Yes, I mean, I've received a list of students at the secondary level who still don't have this clearance, and the nurses have also shared with me in some cases their communication with these parents. So unfortunately, right now it's a little bit of an uphill battle, but we do need to get these kiddos cleared if it's safe for them to return so that they can return.
What would happen if a student doesn't have just regular annual physical?
So I'm not the expert on this, but I can tell you that more specifically, if they don't have the required immunizations, then they could be excluded from school. In terms of an annual physical, oftentimes our provider comes in and will do physicals here, but that's a physical that's just a basic standard physical for school.
I was wondering that same thing. So I've seen documentation that you don't provide your physical by X date, the school nurse will arrange that. Could you check with our medical director to see if that can be done for these?
So we did ask,
students?
and they are saying primary care physician,
Really?
and the reason for that is that they have the child's medical history and student records. So I think there's probably some element, and again, I'm not a medical person, but there's some element of like pre-existing conditions that could make you more at risk with a moderate to severe COVID infection that they would want to check and clear. It wouldn't just be like, well, everything looks good kind of thing. They would want to make sure that they're looking into any concern that your doctor would be aware of, but this doctor.
My last question was, are any of these children in extracurriculars or seeking to be in the sometime in the future?
I don't know if they're seeking to be, but if they're not clear to participate in that they would not meet the requirements of the Family ID program to clear them for extracurriculars. That doesn't mean that they're not participating in sports outside of the school district, right? We hear, but they're on travel this or travel that. That is not something that we can regulate, but we have a responsibility. If our medical director is saying we can't clear these students and allow them to participate, you know, that's a liability on the school district if we don't follow that.
Anything else for Carolyn? All right, why don't we go to Elliot?
Hey, good evening, everybody. So just a couple of quick bullet points. Our Chromebook distribution is underway. So as just a quick reminder, after the emergency distribution during COVID, where we just gave every Chromebook we had on every shelf in every corner, we started getting really deliberate about our replacement cycle. And so this is year 2 of that replacement cycle plan, where all incoming students to a new building gets a new device. Alden's 3rd graders, the middle school 6th graders, and our high school 9th graders get a new device that they will stay with them through that building. At Elm, we have 2 shorter loops where we have touchscreen tablets available for pre-K and kindergarten, and the clamshell devices that the other grade levels have for 1st and 2nd graders. So those will loop back twice, but every device in the district will be either on a 3 or a 4-year replacement cycle, truncated from our 7-year cycle before COVID. So we're in year 2 of that, and we'll have that fully implemented by next fall. Our high school students will be getting, our 9th graders will be getting their new devices hopefully this week. We had a little hold up in our process, but we're going to get their new stuff out to them as soon as possible. And just as a reminder to our families at home that may be listening or watching, we will be sending out the insurance documents for Chromebooks. Please, if you are able to, we strongly recommend getting the insurance for the Chromebook. It will cover the full device replacement and any repairs that we can make for the entire school year. So if you can manage it, it's very much worthwhile. It protects the device, and you know, things happen, accidents happen. We want to make sure our kids are able to stay on their devices and actively learn. We are also we have 3 additional flat panel interactive display boards that are replacing the smart boards like the one behind me. So we've got a couple of our teachers identified, and they'll be finding out very soon that they're getting new toys. So we're excited to see them in play. We've had some really cool things happening with the new classroom technology, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in action. Hoping to have one, I want to say at every building by the time we're done with this wave. So we've got 3 devices, we've got 3 buildings to put them into. It's going to be really exciting to see them up and running.
What kind of training do you give to the teachers? And hopefully it's after they're on the wall, but do they get like base level, or do you go in and, hey, if you're a science teacher, you might want to try this, try that?
Cool. That's a great question. We haven't had formal training. We've had so few of them that it's really been like, you know, when we brought the first 3 in last year, we had the one teacher who had experience in a previous district really show it to the new teachers. So we've kind of been using a train-the-trainer style of indoctrination. As we get more of them into the district, we may look at more of a formal plan, but it's really been helpful to have teachers visit each other and see how they use the device. And like I said, I only brought them in new last year for the pre-K and one of our new science rooms in the middle school. And our science teacher at the middle school, Ms. Loreno, had used this in her previous district. She's very familiar with it, and she's done a great job of showing some other folks how to use it. We had another teacher here that had a similar device that left the district, but fortunately for us, the monitor stayed in the room. So we've got some new people kind of giving it a go, and we're working through with our teachers that have experience to teach the ones that are getting them now.
Okay, good.
All right. As far as the facilities team goes, while I have Mike and Nick and John here, I did want to show some pictures to the team because I feel like our board members got to see a lot of the work finished. But sometimes people forget that we've got a lot of folks working very hard all summer long to get things done for the district. And I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and highlight some of the bigger projects. Again, for those in the room and those at home and those that maybe haven't gotten to see all of our buildings yet. So, Perry, can you see in my slides?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. I'm just going to click through real quick. And I usually make John talk about these, but I'm going to save him some stress today. I'm going to do it for him and give me a chance to brag about our guys. So At Alden Place, we upgraded some lights. So these are classrooms that had a drop ceiling put in below the lights, and the light was just like, you know, with a wing and a prayer shining through the drop ceiling. So our guys replaced those with LEDs. Also, you can see the portico where they fixed the lights and also repainted the eaves all the way around Alden Place Elementary, really brightened up the place. But this classroom project is just indicative of if we do look at a large scale energy savings project like an LED lighting upgrade. We've got a couple of rooms that are kind of set up as demos, if you will. But the teachers in those rooms and the students seem to be really happy with the quality of the lighting as we've been able to install it. Alden Place stage, I don't know anybody that can tell me the last time that stage was reconditioned. So after years and years and years of just collecting things, you can see on these couple of slides that the guys repainted the back wall, the air handling ducts above, and just look at how much they got that stage sanded down and reconditioned. You can see Matt there, our custodian down at Alden, putting a lot of elbow grease, but look at that floor, man. It's amazing what they did with that stage. It looks really beautiful now. So we're excited to, Tom, it's your show, but we'd like to see some things happen down there. And now we're really proud to show it off. And again, you walk down this hallway here, Mr. Cabello's vision for the 6th grade pod really taking shape this year after setting the foundation for it last year. But you can see just how much work went into. I wanted to show these pictures to show you folks what those walls and floors look like behind those lockers. So maybe you could appreciate how much work our facilities guys put into getting that project off the ground and completed before school opened this year. So really proud of these guys, and floor care everywhere. This is the pictures from the upper level here. And Mr. Hurley and Nick really did a great job of teaching our new guys the proper way to strip and wax floors. And I wanted to show you the progression of how that looks, getting it all the way down, almost bare. That is probably a 60-year-old floor, Mike. Is that about right? So very old tiles, and these gentlemen put a lot of love into it to make it shine like glass when our kids came in September. Our new central administration offices, our new superintendent suite, which was conceptualized last year, completed over the summer, and that's Albert Tompkins, who couldn't be here tonight, but putting in a lot of elbow work in that space. I am so proud to say that we've built rooms, we've reconditioned fields, we've completely restructured hallways, and we did it almost entirely with in-house staff. We've had less contractors and less BOCES labor in this district in the years that I've been here and in the years that most of us can remember. Our guys picked up the work, learned new skills, learned new trades, and really got it done. So it's with a lot of love and a lot of pride that we can say that Millbrook's team did all of this summer, and we did a lot of it on our own. Our team took a lot of pride in supporting these gardens and planter beds. John's going to talk a little bit more about that in his report, but we wanted to show just how this has evolved over the last year and really the care that went into it over the summer. You know, in a lot of districts I've been in, garden projects fall off in the summer months because nobody's there to take care of them. They're a great idea, but when the kids are gone, they fall to pieces. But between the parents and the kids and our staff that volunteered their time over the summer and our facilities team, they really were able to keep it up and keep it in great shape. So I'm super excited about that. And our Elm Drive playground's almost done. And again, I gotta say, we're going to be ready to open it in a couple of weeks, and it would have been a couple of months if our guys didn't pick up the slack and get the work done. So John met with the donor. The donor said he only had but so many hours to give, and instead of waiting on him to finish it, he took some time and trained our team. Now he comes and he shows them what to do, and our guys get the work done. So we were able to speed that project up considerably. Really excited about that as well. And then here's our grounds guys, just again, maintaining the butterfly garden, remulching the playground, repainting curbs and speed bumps. These are little aesthetic things that just went years and years of not getting done. And you can just see how our facilities team has really taken pride in the entire district, inside and out. These guys are working, they're happy, they're outside. And I think when you pull into the campus, it just feels different. And that's just all the credit to John and his team for getting the work done and prioritizing things appropriately. And our principals for having the constant feedback loop, like Perry spoke about, to take ownership of their campus. So just wanted to say thank you. Sometimes I talk a lot, but I feel like sometimes pictures can go a lot further than the words we share. So I'm super excited about everything that our team has done. And I'm sure John will go into a little bit more detail. Feel free to grill him when it's not my turn anymore. And answer any questions you might have. But there's new stuff happening. We've got some plans for further upgrades to our custodial care and in terms of equipment, in terms of truncating our labor hours. So what we did, we did an analysis of what it takes to clean our buildings the way we want them clean. And obviously, as with so many things, we don't have the manpower to do it the way we want to do it with the stuff we have. And so we're going to start augmenting our staff with better equipment, better techniques, better chemicals, better supplies. And our most senior guys are really dialed into that conversation as well. They're going to help us meet with the vendors and make those plans. But we talked about implementing some new strategies that are going to help them speed their day up and give a better level of service to our kids and our staff. Because we feel it's really important that we've done so much new stuff. We want to keep it at that high level year round. So I really appreciate the fact that our team has trusted John and I to bring some new stuff in, and they're willing to be honest with us about how it's going and what it takes to keep it at the level that we want it to be. So thank you guys again. And thank you, John, for your leadership there.
I wanted to make a comment about, it's not just the pretty stuff either that's changed dramatically. It's maintaining things instead of just waiting for it to blow up and then trying to put it back together. I've seen, a dramatic change in the way things are taken care of. And that's really, that's all you can ask for is stuff needs to be properly maintained. And we can see it in the maintenance guys. We can see it in the way they're responding. We can see it in John's scheduling of preventative maintenance, all the stuff that we've been harping on for years. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Perry. And I appreciate you teeing up my next statement for me, because I was just about to talk about taking care of our things. And this is a great opportunity to do that. So I want to say thank you to the board for supporting our creation of tender bids to come in and really do the heavy lifting for us. Our boiler cleaning is underway. We've had a professional company come in and tear apart the boilers in every building to make sure that they're ready to fire so we can make heat when we have to. Unfortunately, or fortunately, they've identified some intensive repairs that are needed, things that have gone unaddressed for quite some time. Mr. Hartswood, you recall the steam that bleeds out of Elm Drive Elementary School? That's been a hot button of yours for quite some time. So in order to fix that, we're going to need a pretty significant infusion of cash. Currently, we have identified about $21,000 in need for boiler repairs, things that were just left to the wayside over time. And so I share that, and I also say thank you, board, for funding and maintenance and repair reserve last year as part of the general fund budget. So we do have money earmarked for things exactly like this. These are the kind of things that money is put aside for. But when we create a maintenance reserve, we do so in the event that we have a near catastrophic failure or anticipate a failure, and we can mitigate that mid-year. So this is going to be one of those things. Before we come to the board and ask for board action to release those funds, we're going to make sure that every building is appropriately assessed so that we can do it in one shot. But John is working with the vendor currently to identify, so that's Elm Drive is about $21,000 for the boiler plant there to be brought up to speed. We're in the process of making sure that all the other plants are equally assessed. And my plan is to come to the board at our next board meeting and request authorization to access that repair reserve for the purpose of making those repairs prior to heating season.
And just to pile on, that $21,000 is not just hey, it would be great to put, money into the furnace to put new dials on. This is money to stop throwing fuel oil out the door, throwing heat out of our buildings, wasting money, and quite honestly, wasting fossil fuels. One of the things that we've talked about is becoming a greener district. And that doesn't mean, we all have to wear hemp belts. It means we have to start taking care of our furnaces and our water systems and all the rest of it. So we're not just throwing money away. And this is why, again, we've been pushing on preventative maintenance, on professional maintenance. And I think we're headed in the right direction, at least, from my standpoint.
Thank you for that, Perry. And that, I have to say, in a different environment, it would be daunting to bring that kind of thing up to a board. So I appreciate this board support that we're not afraid to say, we found something bad and we can fix it, but it's gonna take money. And this is why these things exist, right? This is why the reserves exist. This is why we have the relationship we do. So
Elliot, it's a good segue. Now we're on boilers and fuel oil, and what's up with fuel oil this year? Cost.
So the costs are dropping a bit from where they were recently, but still exceeding where they were when we budgeted. So we did pad the budget a bit, anticipating a continual rise. We're hoping it levels off. We're doing the best we can to manage it with behavior. So one of the things that John started doing even last winter was really using staffing to augment boiler operation, where we're allowing the building to coast naturally. We're shutting the plants down at reasonable hours rather than letting them run wild. So I can say that plan will perpetuate this winter. We're going to keep an eye on the buildings. John also implemented building checks on the weekends where we come in and run the plant for a few hours rather than for days, just to take the chill out and prevent freezing. So there's little things like that that we can do behaviorally that's conservative, that'll help us mitigate fuel consumption. And the pricing is what it is. We have two pricing structures to purchase from. There's the Duchess BOCES for fuel, and there's the state contract, and we're constantly monitoring both to see which one's the better deal. And we'll go from there.
Thank you. Let me throw this out to you. With the fire districts, as most of you know, many of you know, I guess, that I'm a commissioner with the East Clinton Fire District. Because of the cost of oil, fuel oil, the fire district was joined up with the town of Clinton to buy fuel oil. So the more people that join in, you buy more gallons, you get a better price. I don't know if there's a law against, and that's the way I phrase it, not a law that allows, because I've always viewed bureaucracy as doing things that there's no law saying you can't do it. You do it. You don't look to say, okay, do it. If there's no law saying you can't, you do it anyway. And so I wonder if could school districts join up together to buy fuel oil as in groupings. It would bring costs down. I don't know that to be true.
We can look into it. I think that's kind of the spirit of the BOCES bid, is like when Duchess BOCES puts things out, it's like, okay, we're representing 13 municipalities rather than just one, to leverage that buying power. So I kind of think that's the spirit of it, but I can certainly reach out to some colleagues and see if anybody's considered an intermunicipal agreement that might have a better deal. Could hurt.
And along that thought process, why couldn't technically you join up with the town and village of Millbrook with their fuel oil? There's just to think out of the box on trying to bring down costs. It's, I don't expect anybody to say, here's the yellow brick road and here's the route there. So, and that's why I've always said, unless it specifically says you can't do something, you just do it and let them, let somebody tell you down the road, oh, you shouldn't have done it. Meanwhile, it's done. So that's where to save money.
I'm gonna remember that now.
Yeah, remember that. It's not for hearing. Yeah, and I will say, yes, I remember. So start looking into out of the box. Thank you.
And Elliot, to piggyback on the, sort of related to Howard, but within repairs and this reserve fund, one thing I meant to bring up when we were talking about the debriefing was the state of the Elm food services equipment. And I didn't firsthand look at it, although now I wish I had, but there was discussion that there's repairs needed, or are we still really running with one burner out of 4 on a stove?
I haven't personally put
Uh-huh.
hands on the equipment yet, but that's something that John and I are looking into in terms of
Okay.
repairing the equipment. With the reserve, we have to be very careful with what we use that money for legally.
Okay,
Repair reserve money is earmarked for emergencies that can have catastrophic failures. I don't know that kitchen equipment would qualify, but we can look into that. We can also look into maybe shifting around some general fund money to free it up for that repair. In the sense of, if I'm going to get repair reserve money to fix the boiler, maybe I can take a little bit of boiler money and put it towards the kitchen. as long as it's, aligned with general municipal law, we're not violating any of the rules like Howard said. There's some rule that we are very explicit. So
Right.
when it comes to a repair reserve, it's the board allowing us to access reserve fund that if we don't do this now, there's going to be a failure that could prevent school from happening. And so when you have one of two boilers go down and for at least 6 weeks or 8 weeks a year, you need both of them to heat that building, there's a risk that we wouldn't meet our minimum temperatures if we don't make that repair. So it's directly impacting construction. That's what allows it to qualify for that authorization. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just wondering how close are we to an impact
Agreed.
of feeding our children?
Agreed. I
at
think
Elm?
there's other ways to get there, but it's a priority to us.
Okay. And I don't know, is it the film or there are other kitchens?
I would venture to say that we probably need a little bit of love in all of our kitchens, but I'm not in a place where I can
Okay.
explicitly state to what extent, in some sort of prioritization. But we certainly do that.
Okay, thanks.
And the last piece of my report was just the capital project update. So we are currently closing out phase 1 of the high school secure vestibule. We're at the punch list phase where we're literally patching cracked tiles and just doing some paperwork and closing it out. Phase 2 has gone through the mechanical and electrical reviews. So at every project we do, again, this might be new for some folks, so I'll just restate. When we do a capital project, we have to have the architect or engineer send the plans to the state education department. Their Office of Facilities Planning has their own architects and engineers who review those plans, make notes, make recommendations for revisions, they kick it back. Once we get to a point where they approve the project, we can move forward with putting it out to bid. So the engineering and architectural reviews have been completed for the high school vestibule phase 2 project. We're waiting on the financial review, which happens in a sister office at NYSED. Once that approval comes through, we'll be able to put this project out to bid and hopefully get you a recommendation for bid award as soon as we can. We're hoping to get it back in the next few weeks, maybe a month or two, depending on how backlogged the state is, but at least the engineers and architects are done. So that's the important piece. And then, planning for May. So again, we're on track with hopefully bringing a proposition to the public of a large scale capital project. The scope of that project will come from our strategic planning initiatives, and then the subcommittees thereof will make recommendations for project scope. But before we bring it to a facilities committee or a capital planning committee, we really want to follow the lead of the strategic planning group. So we're always, I think every meeting, we're encouraging folks to participate and join us in that initiative. And we just want as much feedback as we can on the strategic direction of the district so that we can talk about rebuilding the facilities around that mission. So I think that, and with that, I'm currently working on RFPs for construction manager and municipal advisors to give us financial support and construction oversight when we get there. So that'll happen over the next couple of weeks and months. We'll get that RFP out so we can hopefully get it awarded before the holidays to get these people on board for spring.
Good. On the agenda, we have Alden and facilities. Do we want to switch facilities and just so we can finish up Elliot's part? Elliot and John?
John, do you want to just go ahead?
Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and I just want to thank all the board members and Mr. D and Mr. Garcia and customers that are running the day-to-day operations of our district. I especially want to thank our custodians and all the maintenance workers for adapting to the changes that they're going through with our main being in charge. I meant to be a little rough a little bit, but all the guys were acceptable and they did a really great job at some of the made. So the facilities report, all the schools are ready to open on time to satisfaction of all the principals. Boiler cleaning has begun and is scheduled to be completed by the end of the month. Traffic lines and curbs have started to be repainted instead of hiring outside contractors. Estimates have been gotten for all the potholes and the blacktop that needs to be repaired. It's pretty expensive, so what I did, I purchased some cold patch, and the guys, the maintenance staff, have been patching the holes and potholes down by Alden and some by the middle school. New engine has been purchased and installed by facilities on a large lead vacuum that we have, as opposed to using an outside contractor in preparation of the fall season for the leaves. Really big job. It's a really tremendous engine, a big piece of equipment, and the guys on himself looked at it to the part. The brand new engine, it was a great job. Over at the high school library, Painting the library has been completed on time for school to open. The butterfly garden is ready for the students for educational purposes. After much needed rainfall, the baseball and softball field looked really good. There was hardly very little water up there if we had the field run over, so it's really good. This way we have all our home games at home. In the middle school, floor tile replacement and laid patchwork have been completed with a locker used to be, as you can see on the hallways here. The superintendent's suite is now open. Storage closet is scheduled to be completed by the end of the month. Over at Alden, we moved all the excess furniture and some of the oil and furniture that Tom bought.
I didn't buy it.
There's a lot of furniture, like a couple hundred. We got it all out of the building and we both all got to the classrooms in time for school to open. We put all mulch around the playground. And tree trimming on the property has begun. You know, it's Golden has a lot of trees and a lot of his outside learning area had a lot of branches and started chopping down. Over at Elm, work's continuing on the new playground. It should be completed. I'm hoping by the end of this week. I might be pushing it, but definitely by the end of September, the kids should be out there on that playground. And we also put mulch all around the outside playground. I really want to give special thanks to these guys. These guys really worked really, really hard this summer. I've been here for 2 years now, the past 2 summers. We never did nothing like this. So it was a really amazing summer. These guys were great. All our buildings got opened on time. No hiccups or nothing. And right, day one was
Yeah.
perfect. Everybody got in. It was a little
The work that was
nerve-wracking
done.
last week, but we got it done.
Everything got tied up just in time.
Thank you, everybody.
So John, do we know, I see you're building a vulture garden down there.
They're all pets.
My God, there was one tearing something up in the road as I left the walkthrough. I mean, seriously, I mean, I don't, it's not something I even know why we worry about, but it's, I mean, when you see 30 vultures over the school.
Just hold it, just hold it. So we have a new exterminating company called Pestmaster. They were out about 2 weeks ago, so they made a monthly run. When they come out again, I'm gonna show them exactly what's happening and see if they can do anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not, you know, sure they might be able to do something.
No, or just make sure they have a science unit on carnivores. All right. Anyway, thank you, John. Tom?
Yeah, I would just say with the turkey vultures, I sat out there in the car when I was leaving because there were like 16 of them on the road and they didn't move. They just, as cars went by, they just sat there. Yeah, I thought they would walk away and come back like normal, but no. So.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get rid of that horse as our logo and just, you know, put out a nice vulture. Anyway, sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. All right, so let me start by saying, so we just for students, I guess. So we had 170 students come in the first day of school. What a pleasure to work with the kids. I was able to, when I did my little bit of talk about conduct and meet with them before recess and lunch, it was really incredible how attentive they were, and still today. And I think just use the example of fifth graders, for instance. Fifth graders are up on the stage eating lunch, and we talked to them about keeping the floor clean this year and stuff like that. And raise your hand to throw out, get a drink, all these different things. They're following it very, very, very well. They're just amazing. And it's not only fifth grade. You go down in the lower part in the APR, and the floor is fairly clean. So it's a good group of kids, good group of people to work with. It's wonderful to work with people of one purpose. So all of you, way to go this year. It's been amazing. Just want to highlight a couple of things with regard to the curriculum work. First of all, I mentioned in there about talking about fourth grade science test. Fourth grade science tests were done this past year. And because they'll be in fifth grade, where the new science test will be, they're not asking them to write the science test twice, before they get to eighth grade. So that's why that is worded the way it is. There won't be a test this year in science. It'll be held off until spring of 2024. Just a couple of comments about safety and so on. We had our first fire drill on Friday, and it went very, very well. And it's wonderful that when you announce a fire drill, the SRO is there, the village police are there, and it's run very formally, and that people take it seriously. Students, very little talking. For first fire drill, usually they're running and they're, so on. But this group, nah, it was pretty nice to see. So that was Friday. We are working on what I mentioned, talking to the students for lunch and recess. We're also, the classroom teachers were hitting the classroom, and then also the, safety in the building. They're talking about use of technology. They went down an old list that I had. I'll pass them around if you'd like to see it, but it's a list that talks about, it used to be called the behavior checklist for students. And we developed this long before PBIS, but during PBIS, we turned them into all positive statements. So if I just share, for instance, in the lunchroom, use inside voices, eat over the table, raise hands for all needs, use table banners to clean up your area, including the floor, get everything you need in one trip, and touch and eat only your food. Now, how do you say that positively? And so we worked really hard to do that with several different areas. And we're revamping that this year. It says 2023 out. We didn't hand that out to students yet because one of the teachers said, you're missing technology. And so I don't know what they want us to do with technology yet. That's where we'll continue to work. And anyway, so that's that area. I also want to mention with regard to Home Depot, it was great to see them last Wednesday. I mean, a week. I don't know when school started. Sorry, no, it was August 31st. All right, so a couple weeks back. So they came out, there were 5 people donated their time from Home Depot to complete the project. The one thing that we didn't get were a couple of tables that we used for the outside learning spaces to set up for a presentation. And so otherwise those are completed and they did a nice job. I thought they're not going to paint this after they see what we have to work with. And yet they, all 5 people were painting with paintbrushes. So did a wonderful job. I also want to say, I guess, as far as the outdoor learning spaces, just quickly, there are 5 tables in 2 different spots, 10 tables in all. Those 5 tables seat up to 8 students. The smaller they are, the more they seat. So if they're in 3rd grade, we do seat 8, and so on. But they're portable for a reason. One is that they weigh probably 200 pounds. But also, we haven't decided exactly where to put them because we don't know where the shade's going to be exactly. We guessed and where it's going to be the most convenient for the staff, that type of thing. But we did have our first outdoor learning experience on Friday. All the 5th graders went out, and there are 42 of them. They went out and did an egg drop contest in front of the school. And it was just amazing to see that many students focused on an activity and liking where they were, I guess. Same thing could be true of the Gaga pit. They're a little bit excited, but they loved where they were. So it's a great thing to see. And back to school night is coming for us. I think my staff long ago encouraged me to do the first one. Let's get it done, kind of thing. But it's a wonderful opportunity for parents and teachers to meet each other, to get to know at least who their teachers are so that they can call them they can email them and know who they're talking to. So our first night, or our night is Thursday. You are welcome to come. There'll be PTO and so on in the lobby. And you get to sign up for PTO, I guess, register. And then we have band in the band room for 4th grade and 5th grade parents. And we don't have as many 5th graders this year. COVID took a hit on our band program. But we do have 4th graders who are interested, very interested. So we'll see how big our band is. Excited about that. And the teachers will be alternating half-hour sessions in the all-purpose room as groups this year. Special area teachers will be in our library. And let's see what else. Oh, let me tell you this. So I had a unique opportunity to run a faculty meeting with all the Alden teachers, and we got some really good things done. That list of Spirit Week days was incredible. Turn that out. Elm Drive teachers picked a couple of things in Alden Place, and we agreed, and that took 5 minutes. We were done with that project, so that was good to get that out of the way. Usually, we're arguing about it by phone and email, and so it was great. But the other thing that we achieved is that we did a mood meter activity, and what happened is that so I had to I invited all 65 teachers and support staff that were in there, and they plugged away on the mood meter, and then I was able to print that up and share it back with them in the staff agenda, the faculty meeting agenda, and that was a good feature for us. I hope they enjoyed that they were able to see what the results were pretty quick, and so that was fun. We also did code of conduct. Tabletop exercises, and the funny one that we had a good discussion on was one about a cell phone being found, or a student pulling out having a cell phone in the desk, monkeying with it. What do you do? And so we had a great dialogue back and forth, because it was obvious when you talk to pre-K through 5 teachers that they all have different viewpoints on that, depending on the age of the student. For instance, up to grade 2, they said that doesn't happen. And then you go on beyond. In 2nd grade, there are a few that do have cell phones. In 3rd grade, there are more. 4th grade, even more, and so on. And to the point that it seems like maybe a third of the students, by the time they're in 5th grade, have a cell phone. So there is a need for technology focus, and how do you use it effectively, and how do you enforce these rules that we make. So that's my report. Any questions from what I wrote?
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That was really a lot of, I can see there's been a lot of work. Good. Just from being at Alden, seeing the aesthetics outside, and then from your report here. So you've been working hard, and thank you for that. And I really do like the expectation list that Elliot's looking at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that it's worded in terms of what you should be doing instead of what you shouldn't be doing. So kudos. Are they really expected to be silent? I know that I'm picking up on a word here, but words matter. Are they really expected to be silent in the hallways and not transitioning on the playground? Is that reasonable?
Do you do 30 miles an hour and a 30-mile-an-hour traffic?
No, never. Well, I mean, are teachers silent when they're walking in the hallway? Or do the kids, I'm being serious, do the children in the middle school have to be silent?
There are times when it's 100%. When I look at 3rd grade is close to 100%. 5th grade is close to 100%. when they're moving about.
Okay.
And I just haven't seen a lot of fourth grade, so maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm just
across
wondering
the board.
if not that, do they do that? I'm not saying they can't. Is it a reasonable expectation at their?
Well, I don't think there's any penalty for it. Let me put it that way. It's a reminder. All right, everybody,
Right.
let's try to keep it down. Because there are other classes going on
Yeah,
in our.
I just think about the words silent. I don't know. It's. I'm not gonna tell you what to write, but I mean, inside,
No, that's good. At least we'll discuss it because we are revamping
because
this.
if
Yeah.
there's not a penalty for it. Well,
Well, very few of these have penalties. They're just reminders.
I think if you tell a child that, you know, they're supposed to be quiet or be silent when they're in the hallway, you know, are they? And I think Howard just said, I mean, you know, the speed limit is 30, but usually, you know, you can get away with 34 or 35. But what they don't want you to do is go whipping down the street at 80 miles an hour. And I think the same with the kids, you know, silent is a wish, but it's, you know, you can't be running down the hallway screaming at the top of your lungs and, you know, constantly yelling. And so it's probably, do you set a low bar and then give them some leeway, or do you set a high bar and then try to have to rein it back in?
yeah, I just think there's a difference between inside voices. Like if you're in a library, you're still not expected to be silent.
I
So,
think the only difference is that inside voices, everyone has a different interpretation of, but silence is something that I think is more universally understood. So saying the expectation is silence. It's a clearly understood starting point that you can work from, as opposed to inside voices. If you've ever heard someone who's hard of hearing, their inside voice is
yeah,
like me shouting from the rooftops. So, you know, it's very hard to take nuance out of it unless you use clear concise language.
Plus my inside
If you're
voice.
gonna use inside voice, you need to
Yeah.
define that.
I mean, the inside voice, if, you know, the person standing next to me is using their inside voice and I want to be heard, well, that means I got to speak louder than that person. And then the next thing you know, they're basically everybody screaming in the hallways. I think if you start with you need to be quiet. You know, maybe silence not the right word, but you need to be quiet.
I think, yeah, that's where I'm going with it, because, yeah, we don't need to have to talk about that forever, but I'm also thinking of what they're seeing from adults. So if adults are walking through the halls and speaking quietly to each other, if that's acceptable, then that is a mixed message to a young child. And then they're allowed to speak in the middle school, in the hallways, which they are, and they have probably a better understanding of how to monitor themselves. You know, have to transition somewhere, but I thank you. And so I was wondering, I know you want to add in technology there, but you've already reviewed this with the children. Have they already signed off?
No,
No, I was,
no, we didn't go that far because of the
yeah,
additions. So we're trying to wrap this up, hopefully by early next week.
Great.
We'll have it done.
great.
Yeah.
And then, would you send that home to the parents so there's good connection between
We certainly could,
home and school?
yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for Tom?
I had one more comment, and that's that Mrs. Pulver mentioned that she is going to begin the kindness group again, and that's the group that painted the rocks that are outside our lobby entrance. And also, you know, along those lines, Frisbee golf and different activities will happen as well after school for our kids. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
What's the
Go ahead.
Gaga? What's the Gaga pit? Why does it make sneakers so dirty?
What
Gaga-
does it
the
make them
Gaga.
so dirty?
What is the
No.
Gaga pit? I don't
What
know.
is it? Oh, Gaga pit. I'm sorry. It's a wooden structure that's out just past the playground. And it's a ball game.
Okay.
And you can only hit the ball with your hand. No throwing the ball, it's you have to punch at it. If it hits somebody below the knees, they're out.
Well, okay. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tom. All right, under new business, we have we need to set the rates that we're paying for our substitutes for 2022 to 23. Hopefully you've all taken a look at those rates. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so what I asked Caroline to put together was an explanation, kind of a comparison of us to other districts, just to give us, a real idea of why we're doing this, because quite honestly, substitutes in any fashion are like gold now. So anyway, Caroline, you want to just take us through this?
Yeah, so Perry, I don't know if you can see the screen, but I did put up there what we were able to collect from neighboring districts who responded. So on the very top row is the 2020, the 21-22 rate for Millbrook, and then our proposed rate is just below it. And what I did was, from the folks who responded around the county, I highlighted in red the lowest paid, and I highlighted in green the highest paid, so that you were able to quickly compare our proposed rate with the highest and lowest around, and see where we fall. Obviously, some of the rates are extremely generous. If you look at the Pine Plains, they mean business. They want all of the substitutes in the area. And, I don't blame them. It's extremely challenging to do anything without teacher substitutes. It's very difficult to provide any professional development during the school year. So after, up to 90 days, they're getting $175, from 45 to 90 days, rather, they're getting $175 a day. And once they work their 91st day in a school year, they're getting $210 a day, which is like double the going rate for a substitute. So if you know that if I continue to work at Pine Plains, I'm going to get incentivized throughout the school year, it's going to make a huge difference in, returning substitutes throughout the year. So, you can go straight across the column and just see, I think our rates are where they need to be in order to attract people to our district. We can't go without these folks. So it's been particularly challenging in all of the areas listed. And I think, it's the best we can do to try and have a chance at getting folks in here.
So any questions or comments for Caroline?
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, Cheryl put a lot of it together, so thank you for that.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay, very good. Oh, I lost my thing. We have the list of future agenda items. Just if there's anything, rather than just sort of keep asking this, if there's anything that you ever think of that, it's not like a question or I want to know, whatever. I'd really like a review of, how did the first week of school go, or what's going on with the code of conduct. That we want to put a specific session, I should say, together for a future meeting, not just what it is, but assign a date to it. So it's sort of locked in and we don't forget about it. So Cheryl, do we have any questions from the public?
Yeah.
No?
No.
Okay. And I assume there's no one in the room that has any questions.
Like, no,
Okay. All right. So we have a couple of things that for executive session. Just a reminder for people in the audience, we may come back from executive session with motions that are a result of what we discussed. And these are matters of personnel, safety, security. So do I have a motion to go to executive session?
Make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? All right. All right, take us off.